Alright, so today we're in the garage again. We're going to be doing some more work on Camperdan's Evap system. So about a week ago, I was driving home from work and my check engine light came on shortly after I got onto the highway. And it had me a bit anxious because I was like, man, I haven't had a check engine light in a very long time. I wonder what's up. So I get home, plug in my trusty scan tool, and I get a trouble code that comes back to another segment within the Evap system. From what I've gathered, there's a check valve that's in line with the charcoal canister. And this particular device, I believe, is responsible for actually allowing the vapors to go from the tank into the Evap canister and then essentially get cleaned and then released into the atmosphere. Now, when I read into the trouble code, it states that this code would come about for a number of reasons. One reason in particular is if the bypass check valve, if it stopped working, it would actually short to ground or just be open circuited. Another suggestion was that maybe there's just dirt present in that line and it just needs to be cleared. Now I went onto my truck and I did a little bit of a visual inspection on said part, and it looks like it has a crack in it. So I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna find. I'm a bit nervous simply because there's a metal bracket that this check valve sits on, and it's virtually impossible for me to remove this part without removing that metal bracket. Now there's only two fasteners that hold it in place, but again, I'm nervous because there's rust and I don't want to break these bolts because they do go into the unibody of the truck. So if I snap those bolts off, then there's no way for me to reattach this bracket. Now, as a failsafe, I went to the pick apart a few days ago and I got the bracket off of a 2001 Infiniti QX4, and I got the bracket. I have the check valve. There's also what appears to be a solenoid and then a wiring harness. And again, if all goes well and I'm able to get this old defective part off, I'll be golden. But again, I'm very, very apprehensive because of the rust. But we're gonna get into it and hopefully I don't break anything. So I'm here in the junkyard, guys. I just came to get check valve for my Evap system. Just checking out some of these R50s here. And I made a new friend today. Met a nice gentleman by the name of Russ. He owns an Infiniti QX4, a silver one, an 03. And it just so happens that he's actually seen one of my videos. Nice. So over here in my trusty Junkyard all-purpose box or tote, whatever you want to call it, this is usually where I put all of my tools. Here's the part in question. So this is the check valve, and this is what appears to be a solenoid. And in here, we have the wiring harness. So my plan is to remove this entire bracket with the defective part and just replace it with this one. There's the mounting points for this actual bracket on the truck. There's only two bolts that hold it in place. So hopefully I can get them off and not damage anything. I think these are the bolts in question. I had to double check just to make sure. Here's the fasteners in question for this part. And hopefully the ones that are on my truck aren't too bad and I can actually get them off. I'm gonna go ahead and crawl under there now, and I'll spray things down with some liquid wrench. All right, guys, so here is our problem area. So this guy is our check valve, And the solenoid is going to be sitting over here on the bracket. And then here is the control wire. You can see it right here for that check valve. And then this hose right here goes into the check valve, from the check valve to that solenoid, and then back again. And then there's going to be a fourth line that's over here. If I could find it. I can't point it out to you guys, but that line, that fourth line, it runs from this particular setup back to the tank. So that's where the vapors would come from the tank to this check valve, and then from the check valve through that line right there that you see there, and then into the charcoal canister. So it looks like I'm gonna luck up. As I'm looking at these bolts, they don't look too bad, but I'm still gonna err on the side of caution. I thought I was gonna have to take my spare tire out the way, but looks like I should be able to get away with this without having to remove that. It would give me additional room and such, but I'm not trying to do more than what's necessary. So I'll fix this issue. And then because my truck is a 01, you still have this proportioning system back here for the ABS. So I'm gonna have to sneak up and around this guy. And unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to record this simply because I'm laying on my back. I'm gonna be worried about dust and dirt getting in my eyes and my nose. And more importantly, my truck is still on the ground. I don't feel like jacking it up for this. I think that's a bit overkill. Not only that, I don't want to have to strain the stretch to reach these bolts. So bear with me, guys. I'll be back. All right, guys. So we ended up not being able to remove the bracket simply because one of the bolts was rounded off on the top even before I touched it. That one right there. And this one over here, it loosened up a bit, but it felt like it was gonna snap. Now the solenoid in question, the nut that held on to that also snapped, but not a big deal. And luckily for us, it was not frozen to the bracket. So we're able to get that off. And then over here, we're able to get the actual check valve dislodged from the bracket itself. Just held in place with some plastic tabs. Now, what we're gonna do is go ahead and remove this rubber hose here for the Evap system. We have to disconnect this side, and then the bigger hose that you see here in the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those guys removed now. See if I can position you guys so you can be in the action here. Let's see if we can get this guy off. I was able to get it off really easily in the junkyard, but you have more of an advantage in the junkyard because the truck is up higher and you can actually see what you're doing. So I'm just gonna reach up here. Come on. Get a good purchase there. Slide that clamp back. And then the same for this guy. Make sure I have it in frame for you guys. Yay. Got him, coach. Gotta be careful with these lines. So, this is so old. Oh, I need to move that down some more on the edge of the middle line. There. So we now have our problem part removed. And I just want to show you guys the carnage. Just as you see this part now, this is how I pulled it off of my truck. So there's a hole right there. And that's definitely been sucking in air and dirt and God knows whatever else. Now again, when I read into this trouble code, it said that it could be dirt present in the line, clogging the check valve, so on and so forth. And this vacuum line, it's barely on here. Like, as a matter of fact, there. And look, this thing is all warped. And you know what? Despite me changing the charcoal evap canister, I was still smelling fuel vapor. And I was still hearing a hissing. So it's evident that it was coming from here. So what I'm gonna do now is just take the replacement part off of the bracket and put it onto the truck. And just like that, our parts are now free. Now for this, a little bit of tidying up to do. Because while I was at the pick apart, I was debating on whether or not if I was just gonna take the check valve. I'm glad I took the whole thing all the way down to the harness. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this back. It's supposed to be just like that. And same for this guy. Just like that. And again, what you want to see is everything sitting flush to the check valve, just like it is here. Our nut goes on the back of this. So the solenoid, the OEM one that was on my truck, I'm gonna keep it because it's still good. Although I did break this stud on the back, but this is just a separate metal bracket that slides on and off, I guess. Now when it comes to the harness, it's a two-part deal. You have this side that plugs into the actual solenoid, and then this part right here that plugs back into the truck. So obviously we're not gonna use this because we cut it right here when we had to pick apart. There, I'm gonna use this because it still has the a little deal there that will keep things secure to the bracket on the truck. So now I'm gonna crawl underneath. I'm gonna try and bring you guys along so you can spectate. All right, so what I'm gonna be doing now is working on getting this old harness unplugged here. Hopefully it's not too difficult. It's really in a real bad place. It's like no room. See if I can get a good fix on this with my screwdriver. Again, I don't want to break anything else. And I'm being uber careful around this proportioning valve back here. Yeah, I'm just really leery about this proportioning valve because I've heard of other R50 owners working on things back here, whether they were working on the actual brake system or just trying to move it out the way, and things went south because those metal lines snapped. And mine is definitely no exception, simply because of all of the rust. So I'm not trying to be tinkering with any of that stuff. I'm already as far in as I would be willing to go at this point. From here, I'm now gonna be able to get our replacement parts in place. Again, it's gonna go on the top side of this bracket. It's gonna attach to that line there and that line there. And then we'll plug our harness in there, and then I'll have to tighten this bolt back up, and then we should be home free. Stand by. Now I see why the shops have to charge as much as they do for labor for these kind of things. Because I mean, look at where this thing lives. It's absolute pain in the rear. Get in your home. I'm gonna use the stud on our solenoid to get things into their appropriate living quarters here. Alright, there we go. And then there's our check valve. And I just strapped the check valve to that metal bracket so that way it doesn't jump around. And there's the factory harness routing there. And there's our bolt that holds the solenoid for the check valve. And now we're gonna go scan for codes. All right, guys, so we're just firing up our launch scan tool. Again, this is the P1491. Just gonna go ahead and stick my key in the ignition. Again, you want to make sure your truck is in the start position. We're gonna go to diagnose. Nissan, okay. Okay, we're communicating. All we want to do is make sure that there's no codes present, and then we're going to take Camperdan for a thorough shakedown. North American, United States, Pathfinder, R50 2001, and system selection, engine control module. Click OK. All right, we're communicating some more. And then we're going to read fault code. No DTCs present. No DTCs detected. That's what we want to see. And now I'm going to get out of my coveralls and I'm going to go take this thing for a quick shake. My wife is on her way home from work and my truck needs to go back into the driveway anyway. So it's going to be the perfect opportunity. Stick around. So here's some data that I wanted you guys to see. This just shows you how the purge control system works. Here you can see the vehicle speed, you can see the purge volume control, the percentage at which it's being commanded, and also the Evap system pressure, which is calculated by the number of volts present in the system. Here's a diagnostic report of said trouble code. Again, this was for the P1491. This is for the vacuum cutoff bypass. Thanks again for stopping by the Camper Dan Files. My name is Chris. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and more importantly, I'm hoping that it does help you to solve this issue should you come across it yourself. And until next time, keep using your Pathfinder as a pathfinder, on or off the pavement.